friends, people I never knew, people I never thought about associating with. I don't know what it is. Talk to me. Check it out. 85 acres with a mansion on my land. Full jacuzzis and my neighbors can't stand the way I live. This old so fast. Ain't got your ladies and Primetime is all that.
Whoa, Dion. It's not that kind of primetime.
Yeah, man, it's Primetime Fantasy Football on Next Level Radio.
Well, alright. Yeah.
Alright, and welcome to the second episode of Primetime Fantasy Football here on Next Level Radio. I'm Adam Gorey, and I am joined, as I was in episode 1 and most future episodes, if not all, Mr. Steve Richards.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Glad to be invited back for episode 2. Our ratings must not have been that good.
You must have done something right. So tonight we are going to talk about the AFC East. I'm going to break that down for you. Who is a showcast? Who's a sleeper? We're going to do something called Sleeper Spotlight, and that will be a little spotlight on a couple guys from the division that we think are good sleeper picks. Not necessarily maybe guys that you want to reach for, but just guys that we think you're going to get good value at the picks they're going at, their average draft position. Obviously, it's a little early in the season. Average draft position is probably going to change a little bit over the next couple weeks, I would say, as drafts start getting underway. Right now, you have a lot of those mockers that go in there and purposely draft a kicker in the first round in the mock draft to throw off the average draft position. You know what I'm talking about.
That's nice of them.
So we're going to do that. We're going to also go over-under. We're going to tell you if we believe that the fantasy points this year are going to be over or under the fantasy points last year. Again, that's the AFC East. And then we're going to do something called Bull or Bear, which is kind of for the whole league. Players whose draft stock is either rising or falling. And I actually had to look up which one was good and which one was bad because I don't do the stocks.
I actually meant to ask you that, and I never did. So I'm glad you looked it up, and we didn't have it backwards. We wouldn't look very smart there.
Yeah, Bull is good.
Sure,
Bear's bad.
And Chicago is mediocre as a city.
Correct. Yeah, they have both. It averages out. So also, before we get started, I want to mention, make sure you listen to our other shows on Next Level Radio. First off, every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern is the Showcast with myself and Ben Beck. Also, you have us every Wednesday from now on, every week, until the foreseeable future, until football season ends, assuming.
That's exciting.
Yeah, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, which is what time it is now. And then you have All Request Radio Rock, hosted by Ben Beck, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you tune in for that. It's 3 straight hours of great rock music, and you can send in requests, too. I know last time I sent in a request, and it was played probably a couple minutes later. It's not like when you call in the radio stations on FM and AM, and it takes, I don't know how many on AM play music, but on FM, and it takes them like a half an hour before you actually hear your song. Those sneaky bastards. Also, if you're interested in joining our fantasy football league that we're doing, Primetime Fantasy Football League, we're going to hope to get at least 10 to 12 teams. If we get enough interest, we're going to do 16. It's just going to be standard scoring. The winner will get their pick of what draft pick they want next year. And Steve and I are going to be playing. We have a few people in there now. Send your information. I need your name and your email address. Obviously, if you email it in, I'll have your email address. Send it to primetime@nextlevelradioonline.com, and I will send you the invite. The league's already set up. I'm not 100% sure when the draft day is going to be. It's probably going to be right before the season because we're smart like that.
Yeah.
And also, if you have any questions for us, also you can email them at nextlevelradioonline.com. Or you can tweet them at NXT Level Radio, or go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Next Level Radio Online. And that's about it. So, Steve, I guess, are we ready to get underway?
I'm pretty ready, so I mean, I'm as ready as I can be.
Okay, cool. I forgot to mention, we have a producer.
Yeah.
We have a producer. His name is Robot Bill. He is exactly what he sounds like. He's a robot, so he's going to be helping us out, introducing various segments and whatnot. So let's get underway.
You heard the one about the two bulls?
Or bear.
The bears can smell the menstruation.
All right. Thank you, Robot Bill.
You're welcome.
All right, that's perfect. Kicking it off with Bull or Bear. Like we said before, Bull is good. Their draft stock is rising. Bear is bad. Their draft stock is falling. Not necessarily if they're on the Bears, just,
Yeah.
corny joke. Anyway, so starting off, let's do Bulls first. The first one I have is the tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles, Zach Ertz. According to CSNPhilly.com, the Eagles are starting to use more dual tight end sets in training camp. During OTAs. Training camp hasn't started yet. And that's a good thing because, you know what, he had a good season last year. And using more two tight end sets just means he's going to be on the field more. Because, you obviously have Brent Selleck there, but Zach Ertz he had a great first season. He's a great young player. And I definitely think that that's a positive for his draft stock. It's going to start going up.
I hear that. Yeah, he's a Chip Kelly guy. He was drafted by Chip Kelly as opposed to Brent Selleck, who wasn't as much. One of those receiver tight end types that'll get benefits from a bunch of plays that the Eagles are going to run this year, just like they did last year.
Yeah, exactly. And looking at last year's fantasy numbers. Now I'm going off. This is relatively standard scoring. I can't, make any guarantees. But Zach Ertz only had 14 less fantasy points than Brent Selleck did. So that's pretty good for a first-year guy. And fun fact, Brent Selleck only had 2 less fantasy points than Rob Gronkowski, who only played like a few games. But yeah, definitely you're going to see his stock go up. Steve, I know you had a couple too on your list.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start and I'll kind of combine two guys. My first two Bulls are the Bull Wallace, for all you Wire fans out there. Mike Wallace, who's a wideout for the Miami Dolphins now, and then Jarvis Landry, who is also a wideout for the Dolphins. Joe Philbin has said that Mike Wallace has been in good training for the offseason. He's always a bit dicey moving from Roethlisberger to Tannehill, but he's had a good offseason program at least, so they're optimistic about that. And then according to, I think it was the Palm Beach Post, Jarvis Landry was leading the offense in as far as the wideouts go. Apparently he was the number one go-to guy. And that's always somebody who you can look for to rise in stock. When you're getting more targets, you're going to have more catches and get more production. That's just math. So,
and that's their second-round pick, right? Jarvis Landry?
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's good to hear that he's already, looking really well. Or really good, I guess.
Yeah. And it's promising for sure. And in this day and age of the NFL, they're not afraid to throw rookies in anywhere, and that includes wide receivers. Just looking at Alshon Jeffrey and Julio Jones and guys in the past. So
yeah, and
definitely a quick learning curve.
Another rookie coming in that's already looking good, and he's a bull. His draft stock is rising. Sammy Watkins. People are saying he's already looking like a number one receiver at OTAs. I mean, it's OTAs. You can only take so much out of it, but if he does this well in preseason and once training camp gets started later this month, you're gonna see his stock go way up.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he's gonna fly off the rack pretty quick. I would think that people get excited about the way he plays and just the deep threat and the home run threat that he has at any moment and any time.
Yeah.
A little bit of a Deshaun Jackson mold.
Yeah, and we'll talk about him a little more because, like I said, we're doing the AFC East spotlight tonight. So we'll get in a little more detail to Sammy Watkins a little bit later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next up, Steve, I think you had another AFC East guy, so we'll just quickly make mention of him, but you had Lamar Miller?
Yeah, I do. I have Lamar Miller, who is, at this point, Moreno is having some troubles, and they're talking about Lamar Miller being clearly ahead of Moreno for the starting job, and Daniel Thomas isn't really in the mix either, so anytime you can get a starter, his stock is definitely rising as to where it was last year for sure.
Yeah, I think the surgery Moreno had probably didn't help.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be out for I think 4 to 5 weeks, something like that. So we'll have to keep an eye on that situation. Jordan Reed is also a Bull. He had a great year last year. I mean, absolutely fantastic. He had a little concussion issues towards the end of the season, but they have a new offense this year, new offensive coordinator, and I believe he likes to pass the ball a little bit.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, so apparently look for Jordan Reed to have an expanded role, and he might even be a little bit of a sneaky grab. I mean, with him being out at the end of last year, people might forget about him or even be injured or worried about his injury concerns. So you might be able to get him at a pretty decent round. Yeah,
I would agree with that. Concussions definitely can shy people away, but I wouldn't be afraid of it until it becomes a recurring issue, and it hasn't for him just yet. So I would definitely go for him as a Bull and draft him pretty high, especially in the tight end position.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm going. All my guys are AFC East, but this is actually somebody that we aren't going to be covering a little bit later. I have Brandon LaFell, who has been mentioned as taking over the Aaron Hernandez role, and not in a bad way.
I was going to say, and murdering people?
Yeah, exactly.
Or, sorry, allegedly murdering people?
Yeah, that's not the best comparison to have character-wise, but as a player, he's learned. Apparently, he's learned all of the receiver positions already, and they're even looking at him at tight end, which, Belichick, he's always looking to outthink and outsmart other people. So putting a very tall receiver at tight end would be the next step for Belichick, I would think, and having LaFell line up with Gronkowski in some 2 tight end sets. So that would definitely be interesting.
Not much as far as breakout when he was in Carolina, but worse things have. I should say people sometimes will go to New England and kind of get rejuvenated. I mean, look at when Randy Moss first went there.
Yeah, absolutely.
First went there, not the second time. That didn't work out as well. Next up, Toby Gerhart, man. I mean, he has been generating so much buzz, and he's the guy. He is going to be the guy down there in Jacksonville, and his I think you're going to see it's already going up, and I think you're going to see it go up even more once training camp gets started.
Yeah, like you said, it's finally his turn.
Yeah.
Running back behind the best running back in the league is never easy, but he finally gets to break out, and he can be a I can't think of the guy I'm thinking of right now, but he can definitely.
Peyton Hillis?
No, hopefully not Peyton Hillis.
Mike Allstott? Is it a white guy?
No, it's not a white guy.
Oh, okay. That doesn't narrow it down. There's only so many white running backs that you can run down the list.
A little bit of the Sproles mold, where they shipped him out and he ended up blossoming.
Oh, okay.
Team where he was behind somebody. So
I thought you were comparing body size and type. I was like, he's a little bigger than Sproles. Just a little.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. He's a little bit more like Allstott in that sense, but I'm excited about what he can do. I always liked him in Minnesota. He always ran hard, and he was impressive even at Stanford. So
I was gonna say he did well, with the time he had in Minnesota when Peterson got hurt. I mean, he stepped up to the plate. So it's gonna be interesting to see that.
Yeah, he's always been successful. He just needed the chance. So
yeah, exactly.
Here's his chance.
I think we each have one more, right?
Yeah, I have Julian Edelman, another AFC East guy we'll go over really quickly just because we're going to be talking about him later. But he's the clear-cut top receiver, and it's been proven that the clear-cut top receiver usually approaches 100 catches, if not more, every year in New England. So that's just by pure system, and the guy that he is in that system, he's a stock riser.
Yeah, for sure. And then last one for the Bulls, we have Rashad Jennings, who is apparently going to be the workhorse or the work bull for this situation in New York. It doesn't help the situation actually it helps him. It doesn't help the Giants that David Wilson still hasn't been cleared, and they're not sure when he's going to be cleared. I guess he's getting reevaluated at the end of the month, so we'll see what happens there. That's definitely going to affect Jennings' stock, but for now, they're saying out in New York that he could be the workhorse, and the Giants love to run the ball. So
Yeah, he's certainly somebody to keep an eye on early.
yeah. So let's move on to the Bears. First up, we kind of touched on it earlier with Lamar Miller, but no Sean Moreno. He's a Bear for sure. It already didn't start out well when he got to OTAs, overweight, struggling, and now he had surgery out to 4 to 5 weeks. So his value is going way down.
Yeah, and it might have already not been that well moving from the Peyton Manning system to the Ryan Tannehill system. So
Yeah.
he's already fighting an uphill battle, and this just kind of adds to it.
Yeah, and like we said before, we'll go over, I guess, a little more in depth as far as numbers go. I think you can already guess what we might say, but as far as over under goes, but we'll go over that a little bit later on.
Yeah. Again, I have a bunch of AFC East guys that we'll be talking about later on, but I have CJ Spillers first on my Bear list just because they're going to start using him more on special teams, and unless you get yardage for kick returns, that doesn't help you for fantasy football. So
Yeah, I guess they were talking about that, right? About him possibly doing some kick stuff. I mean, he's just, and I guess we can go into it a little more later, but he's just disappointed every year after year,
Yeah, he's really injury prone at this point. You mentioned Sammy Watkins in your Bear segment or your Bull segment, but hopefully Sammy Watkins doesn't turn into that. And I think we went over this in the first episode. So I just have him in the same spot because they're fast guys from Clemson that are on the Bills. But it's hopefully the comparisons in there.
Yeah, I like your next one, but we'll quick hit Steven Jackson. Already an aging running back, did not have a great season last year. Atlanta is not a huge running team. They're not very good at it, first off. But apparently he might have a battle on his hands if Devonta Freeman, I think that's how you pronounce his first name. Apparently he looks very good at OTAs, so if he looks that well, or that good again, I keep mixing those up. If he looks good again in training camp, we might actually have a little bit of a running back battle going.
Yeah, Steven Jackson, he's been a bit on the downswing anyway. His yards per carry is definitely not as high as you would like it to be. So if they can find a flash in the pan, a young guy to run around, then they might prefer him, like you said.
Yeah, I mean they might start just introducing him into the system.
Yeah.
So that
the next.
I was just gonna say that'll be interesting to keep an eye on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the next Bear on my list has been a Bear for quite a while. He's actually a free agent, but I just found the hot lead from 956 Sports.
I love this one.
Kevin Cobb is arrested for boating while intoxicated over the weekend. And the mugshot is just as good as the story, so feel free to go ahead and check that out. He used to be a Bill, so I'm going to go ahead and include this in our AFC East show. But he's falling and falling fast, and as a former Eagle and an Eagle fan that we both are, then it's kind of funny to see. But
yeah. If he's on your radar, you need to find a new hobby.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Next up, Ryan Broyles, the wide receiver out of Detroit. Apparently not as explosive. He had some, I believe it was knee issues last year. I think didn't he have like ACL surgery or something like that?
Yeah, he was out for a while.
Yeah, so apparently not looking as explosive as last year. And, if you're not explosive and you're lining up, opposite Calvin Johnson, you're gonna have problems.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. It usually takes, if it was ACL surgery, I'm not even sure if it was, but it usually takes 2 years for that too, so that could be stock falling in those sense as well.
Yeah, look at RG3 last year.
For sure, absolutely.
And wide receivers have to run a little more.
Just a bit.
Just a tad, yeah.
My next guy is Chris Johnson, who moved over to the Jets this year. It looks like they're going to limit his usage to try to get as much out of him as possible. And I'm going to go into a little bit more later why that's even worse for Chris Johnson owners, that they would limit his usage than that they would. But it's just not a good sign that the Jets are going to limit his carries rather than give him a chance to get into the game. So
Yeah, and there's actually another Jets running back that might have made our sleeper spotlight a little bit later on that we'll talk about. Next up, and this is not anything against this guy because I've had him the last 2 years. Been great. Alfred Morris, like we said before, the new offensive coordinator's passer. So he might not, and it's a new coach, so you never know. The coach may come in and not like the way Alfred Morris runs or anything like that. So that in not saying he's not a top 10 running back, but his stock is slightly down. If Shanny was still in there and they were still going to be running what they were running, then you probably would see his stock be a little bit higher, basically.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, Shanahan's definitely a guy. If you're his guy, then he's loyal, at least a little bit loyal to you, and he likes to run the football. So.
Yeah, it doesn't scare me much, but his draft stock has just gone down a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll close the segment with Mike Vick, another former Eagle quarterback, but
not a good week for Eagles quarterbacks, or former Eagles quarterbacks, I guess.
Yeah, right. It looks like he's been already pronounced as a dud in minicamp, so obviously he has time to turn that around. And like you mentioned before, it's just OTAs, but. Not looking too sharp or like the Mike Vick of old.
Yeah, a guy like
knew and loved.
A guy like Mike Vick tends to wear down over time, so the fact that he's already not doing well doesn't bode well for him.
Exactly.
Next up, I guess that's it. So let's move on to the next segment here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Primetime Fantasy Football's Sleeper Spotlight.
All right, thank you very much, Robot Bill, for that.
You're welcome.
All right, and in the sleeper spotlight, I'll kick things off here. First up, cool. I have we touched on him a little bit earlier, but Danny Amendola, or no, actually we didn't touch on him. We touched on Emma. Danny Amendola might actually be a little bit of a sleeper. His ADP right now is 126, so that's like if you're in a 12-team league, you're looking at like the 12th round or 10th round.
Yeah.
My math is bad. So, I mean, last year he was obviously going a lot higher. But you might be able to get him at a decent steal. I'm not saying he's going to be everything he was supposed to be last year, and you're probably going to deal with more injuries as usual. But, I mean, if he does stay healthy, you got a steal at 126.
Yeah, absolutely. But, yeah, like you said, the key is staying healthy. So. Yeah. But like the sleepers are what you're taking shots on anyway, so
yeah, exactly.
One of the things that you're just hoping that he doesn't get hurt, and then you get a steal.
Yeah, exactly.
My guys were into the actual AFC East portion of the program rather than what I did, and I just bull and bared all the AFC East too. But the sleepers are actually supposed to be from the AFC East, and I started with a tight end actually in Charles Clay. A lot of times you don't think tight end and sleeper in the same sentence, but Charles Clay's ADP at the moment is at 125, right around near where Amendola is.
I think all these guys are in the 120s, oddly enough, other than maybe one.
Later 120s, yeah.
And then, by the way, these ADPs are off of Yahoo, because that's what the league that we're doing, the Fantasy Football League, that's what that's through. So that's what we're using for. We have a couple other ones that we use, but mainly it's Yahoo.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Charles Clay, as far as tight ends go, if you find yourself lacking a tight end, Charles Clay is always he's been productive in the past, so I can see him.
He kind of came on out of nowhere last year, so I mean, the fact that he's still he's still that far back, maybe people forgot about him. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree. There's definitely going to be somebody that's drafted higher than Charles Clay, and Charles Clay's going to end up doing better.
Yeah.
He's not one of the guys that'll be flashy, but you're not necessarily looking for flashy out of the tight end position.
Yeah, I mean,
going Jimmy Graham. So
who would you take first, Antonio Gates or Charles Clay?
Yeah, Charles Clay seems more reliable at this moment. I would certainly say that. So
yeah, let's look at Antonio Gates real quick where he's at. He's going a little higher, about 120, so maybe like a round earlier. But looking at the list, you got Garrett Graham's going before Charles Clay, apparently. Jermichael Finley, who has never shown me anything.
Yeah, he's more of a name than a production guy, which Charles Clay is pretty much the opposite of that. He's not much of a name guy, but he's a lot of production.
Owen Daniels in Baltimore. He's going to be the second tight end. if Pitta stays healthy. So, I mean, I would take Charles Clay before him for sure.
Agree.
Next up, you got Chris Ivory. This is the one I kind of hinted at earlier with CJ2K being limited and being a bear already. His value going down. Chris Ivory could be a good steal at 125. That's his ADP right now.
For sure.
He's another injury guy, isn't he? He's kind of susceptible. There we go. Yep. Holy shit. Susceptible to injuries, but again, if he's on the field at 125, I mean, look at it this way: if Chris Johnson, they're already limiting him. If Chris Ivory decides to, you already know they like to run the ball. If Chris Ivory gets off to a hot start, Rex Ryan's gonna go with him. I mean, he's not gonna take him off the field, and you're getting then, if that does happen, I mean, it's obviously a little bit, but you're getting a starting potentially running back, an RB probably 2 or 3, at least a flex guy, at 125. I mean, in the 10th round, that's an absolute steal if that happens.
Yeah, I would completely agree, and I'm going to piggyback off you right along the same lines. A guy that's going 127, and I mentioned him earlier, is Lamar Miller, and he's
even more of a steal.
Yeah, I mean, if he's going to keep going at 127, that might, again, it's early for average draft positions. That might be something that changes as
we get closer.
People start to realize Moreno is not going to be Moreno.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we've already touched on it a little bit, that Moreno just isn't panning out, and he's really not. I don't see him being very productive at all, actually, this year. But
yeah, we told you last month Moreno was not Moreno.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And then Daniel Thomas, he's so up and down. He's just not reliable at this point. But Lamar Miller is going to be the number one guy. I'll just go ahead out and say it. You can run the declaration that Lamar Miller will be the number one guy, and you're going to get him at 127.
Yeah, so, he was a rookie last year, right?
I'm not sure.
Was last year? I know it was his first year for the Dolphins, but I mean, I think he was. Let me just look real quick. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was. If that's the case,
he's only 23.
Yeah, I'll double check real quick. But, or no, I guess he did play for them in 2012. So this will be his. But last year was the first year he was really touted to be the guy. Maybe there's still a little bit of a learning curve. So this is his third year now. Last year was a sophomore, so maybe you can attribute it to sophomore slump or something. But now he knows the system a little more. He has some. I was going to say he has competition, but with Moreno being out for a while, he might not. You could again get a steal. So he was going much higher last year. I think he was going like the 4th or 5th round last year. It might even be higher than that.
Yeah, people might have cooled off on him, but now's the time to take him. Maybe not in the 4th or 5th round, but certainly higher than 127.
Yeah, exactly. Now this next guy's a bear, but still potential to do some damage depending on how training camp works out. Mike Vick going again 125 in the 10th round, I think we decided, right? If you're in a 12-team league. So if he does end up, I don't know how that's going to shake out at camp. Maybe they just brought him in to kind of teach Geno a little bit, teach him how not to get injured, which is not a good teacher if you're using Mike Vick. But either way, he'll probably get hurt. Smith will probably get hurt. So he's going to see some playing time, I think, during the season. So he at 125 in the 12th round, depending who your starter is, that might be a good place to take him as a backup.
Yeah, absolutely. Backup for sure. I wouldn't necessarily have him as your number one guy.
No.
Like you said, depending on who your starter is, maybe if your starter has an early bye week and you're thinking Geno Smith's going to get hurt early in the year, then you're going to have him, or a later bye week, and you're thinking Geno Smith is going to get hurt earlier in the year, then Mike Vick's going to be playing later in the year, so that could work out for your bye week quarterback, and you never know what the matchup's going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. My last sleeper, I think you have one more,
I do.
I have 3 sleepers here. My last sleeper is going to be Robert Woods, who again is going late 120s. He's projected as the number 2, so he's going to get some looks, some targets, which is always good. And I really liked him in college at USC, and he showed some flashes last year as well to be that guy. He's a good, big tall target. He's a good he's just a good guy to go to. And so if he blossoms and really gets it together with EJ Manuel, they have another year of experience under each other's belts. So they could connect and be a good tandem.
Yeah, he's
at 128. You know.
He's a young guy. Only played 14 games last year. Had 40 receptions, and it's only his second year. So, like you said, him and EJ came in at the same time. So they're probably you would think this is 2 and 3 years is when they start developing that relationship. That they start kind of getting a little more on the same page. And if EJ stays on the field, that helps him even more. And he can't be that bad of a guy. He was born on April 10th, which is a great day to be born.
I'm guessing that's when your birthday is.
You're guessing correct. Last guy I have for the sleeper spotlight, Sammy Watkins, the rookie, as we kind of touched on a little bit earlier, for Buffalo, the guy that I guess would be projected to be opposite of Robert Woods.
Yeah, absolutely.
ADP right now is at 110. So, I mean, if you're in a 10-team league, that's the 11th round. If you're in a 12-team league, that's the 9th round, like 9th and a 3rd or so. He, like we said, he's a bull. He's doing well already. If he can become like a Percy Harvin type of guy, then, 9th or 10th or 11th round is an absolute steal.
For sure. Yeah.
And getting a starting wide receiver in the National Football League that late that has that much upside. I mean, I saw people draft Cordarrelle Patterson last year earlier than that.
Yeah. How'd that work out?
Exactly. So, I mean, if people are waiting that long on him, I'd step up and take him a round or two early.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. And like you said, he's an X-type player where they can put him anywhere. You might even get some carries and things like that. Just get him the ball because he's a game breaker. So.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess that wraps it up for Sleeper Spotlight. So we're going to take a very quick break, only about 2 minutes. No, not even, maybe a minute. So I guess we'll be back right after this. Stick around.
You're listening to Primetime Fantasy Football on Next Level Radio.
Hey guys, Ben Beck here for Next Level Radio, reminding you to join me every Thursday, 7 to 10 Eastern Standard Time, for my show, All Request Radio Rock. You can join me and I'll be playing the best of new rock, old rock. Well, let's face it, if it rocks, I'm going to play it. You'll be able to make requests all throughout the night and join me in some conversation as well. So don't forget, join me every Thursday, 7 to 10 Eastern Standard Time for All Request Radio Rock, right here on Next Level Radio.
Hey, what's up, gang? This is Michael Rowe. I play Deadshot on Arrow, and you're listening to Next Level Radio.
The Showcast.
Next on the list is The Nut Job. Voices are Will Arnett and Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson is enough just to get me to rent it.
Squirrels, right?
Yeah, this is the squirrel. I would hope so with a movie called The Nut Job. Otherwise, it's a complete porn title that I'm just reviewing completely wrong.
Liam Neeson in it?
Well, you never know.
Sundays on Next Level Radio.
Well, alright. Yeah.
All right, and we are back. That was, obviously, like I said, a pretty quick break. Next up, we're going to stick with our AFC East spotlight, and we're going to do a little something called Over-Under. So let's, I guess I'll let Robot Bill take it away. Hold on one sec.
Let's do that.
It's time for Over Under.
All right, good job, Robot Bill. I can't tell you enough that you're doing such a great job on your
I hope we can put him in our budget for future shows.
Yeah, yeah, he's gonna get too big for his britches. So over under. You want to start out with who do you want to start out with? The Patriots, Bills?
Yeah, sure.
Dolphins. Can you name all 4 teams in the in the AFC East? Patriots. That's the only team that's been relevant lately. Yeah, let's start. I guess we'll start with the Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
I guess we'll try and run through some of these a little quick because there's a lot of guys that we need to go through in like a half hour. So I guess let's start out with quarterback position. Or actually, do you want to just do quarterback position? You know what I mean? Do position by position instead of team by team?
Yeah, that could work actually. If you can't tell, we're doing this on the fly a little bit. We're still learning, but I like that idea rather than the team by team.
Yeah, unlike podcasted shows, we don't get to edit stuff out. we're live. We're doing this shit live.
We're doing live.
So actually, I'm just going to go in order of guys that show up as far as the highest amount of points. So first up, you got Tom Brady on the New England Patriots. No surprise there. He was the highest scoring. 272 according to this league. 4,300 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 18 rushing yards, and 3 fumbles lost, and a 2-point conversion. So what do you think, over or under 272 points? And just to give you a little perspective, that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13th highest.
Yeah, and just by you telling me that, it only assures me more that I'm going to go over. And Tom Brady is better than that as far as 13th goes in fantasy quarterbacks. I think not only will the interceptions go down, but I think the touchdowns will go up. Like 25 and 11, that's pretty mediocre for Tom Brady. And until Tom Brady proves me wrong, Tom Brady's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So
yeah, I agree.
I'm going to go higher.
Yeah, I'm going to go over as well. Anytime you got guys that are struggling with injury all year. Now, he has a lot of the same guys, so it could happen again. But, I mean, if Gronk is doing as well as people are saying he's doing, that right there increases Tom Brady's points, but probably at least, I don't know, how many touchdowns do you think? 10? So, I mean, that's 60 extra points right there. I think 40. This is a 4-point touchdown league.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly having somebody like Gronkowski, another weapon to have, that'll definitely help him out.
Yeah, and by the way, 40 extra points would move him into 5th.
Yeah, so that's pretty much where he belongs. So
yeah, okay, we're both good for over there. Only 12 points behind Tom Brady was Ryan Tannehill, 260 with 3,900 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, 17 picks, but 238 rushing yards with 1 touchdown and 5 fumbles.
Yeah, that's Tannehill's X factor. A lot of people don't realize it, but he can move.
Yeah, man, he's got some legs.
Yeah, and I think that, again, the 12 might say more about Tom Brady's year than Ryan Tannehill's year, that he was only 12 behind. But when you get, he's a rookie, so when you get somebody and he can just improve, learning the system, learning how to play in the NFL a little bit more, he should be, I think he should go over.
Well, this is his 3rd year, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it is his 3rd year, but he still gets to learn the system more.
Yeah, it usually takes about 3 anyway, and he's been starting pretty much ever since. So,
yeah, he's seasoned now, and that rushing is always the X factor for quarterbacks. They always use those rushing yards to pick up some more points. Just ask people like Russell Wilson and Colin Kaepernick. So.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to say over 2. I don't think it'll be by much, but I do think he'll do a little better. Maybe break in. He's at 15 now, so I think he'll just get into that top 15. Foles had more points than him, by the way, in less games.
Yeah, in a half year.
Yeah. Oddly enough, none of the quarterbacks in the AFC East were top 12, which if you're in a 12-team league. So none of them would have started should have started in a 12-team league last year, oddly enough.
Yeah, I won a league with Tom Brady, but he was actually one of my
weaknesses.
Yeah, he was.
It's not often you hear that. So, I guess we're both in agreement on Tannehill going over. Geno Smith is next, 215 fantasy points, just behind Robert Griffin and just over Eli Manning, so he's in an NFC sandwich. Geno Smith with 3,046 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, 21 interceptions, 366 passing yards with 6 rushing yards with 6 rushing touchdowns and 4 fumbles. Yeah,
I mean, I really want to say under just because I don't know that Geno Smith is that good. But when you throw 21 picks, it has to get better than that. Like it can't get worse than that. And speaking of running guys, he's even more of a runner than Tannehill is. So, again, the ceiling's kind of low on Geno Smith, or the past expectations are pretty low. But I'm going to go over again just because out of sheer numbers that he would have to do better than.
You would think that, yeah, you would think that, wouldn't you? I'm going to actually say under.
Okay.
I'm gonna give in to your temptation that you had and go under because Yeah, he's probably going to have less interceptions, maybe a few more touchdowns, but that's only, that adds up to a difference of 6 points if you have one less and one more.
Yeah.
6 rushing touchdowns, maybe he can match that, 366 yards if he stays healthy, but he might not stay healthy if he's running that much, and if he has Michael Vick in there that, if Rex Grossman pulls an Andy Reid, Geno Smith gets hurt one game, and Vic comes in and has a good showing, and then before you know it, EJ's on the bench for a few games. That could easily get down in points. So I'm going to take the lower. Maybe not by much, but it could end up being a push. I don't know.
I can respect that, but either way, I think we're saying he's not high on the draft list.
I am going to have to agree with you. EJ Manuel, last one. Unless you want, well, we can do Vic if you want. We'll go to EJ Manuel real quick. 142 fantasy points, pretty low because of the injuries. 1,900 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, 9 picks. 186 rushing yards with 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, this is pretty easy to go over on this one as well. A lot of the AFC East quarterbacks just didn't give me much breathing room because they were all so low last year. But I'd like to. I'm gonna go over on EJ Manuel again, just by the sheer numbers again because he only played in 10 games last year. So.
Yeah,
here's hoping that he has a healthy season and goes over.
Yeah, and even if you average that out, I'm still going to go over because I like him, man. I think he's got definite potential. Maybe not, everybody expects him to be this big rusher. I don't think that's necessarily his game. I think his game is more a little bit of the passing with the ability to rush, though. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to go over. I think he'll stay pretty healthy, hopefully, and then he'll definitely, obviously, be over the total number and over the average number, hopefully, as well.
I would agree. Sounds like you're higher on him than Geno Smith as well, just going by comparison of quarterbacks.
Yeah, definitely. I am actually a little higher on him than Tannehill, even.
Okay.
I think he could be. Yeah, I think he could be a better guy than Tannehill this year, sneakily.
Oh, good for you. Yeah, there you go.
He might be
somebody to look out for.
Yeah, he might even be a sleeper. I didn't even look at his average draft position. Last, you got Michael Vick. He finished with 108 fantasy points, 1,200 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks, 300 rushing yards, or 306 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns rushing. I guess you got to go under simply because he might not even play.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Certainly doesn't seem to be moving the needles right now. And as far as the future goes, I guess Geno Smith would have to go through a season-ending injury for Vic to even get on the field. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. And by the way, I am going to go ahead and list EJ Manuel as a sleeper because on Yahoo's average draft position, he's not even showing up.
Oh, there you go.
And he could definitely be, I think he could definitely be a QB too. What's his face? Johnny Manziel is on there, but EJ Manuel's not.
Yeah, people love Johnny Football. They might just have him for fantasy team names.
Yeah, that's true.
They have him.
What would your fantasy team name be if you had Johnny Manziel on your team? You wouldn't go Johnny Football. You wouldn't go Johnny Football.
Nah, Johnny Football is too easy. You'd have to talk about something for his escapades in Vegas and hanging out with Bieber and all that shit. So.
Bieber's my BFF, maybe.
Yeah, that's perfect. You nailed it.
All right, well, let's move to wide receiver.
Cool.
Start off with, I guess, you know what? There's really not too many in the division that are in the top 50. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration. All right, Julian Edelman just squeaked into the top 25. He's at number 24. 148 points last year with 1,000 receiving yards, just over 1,000 receiving yards, and 6 touchdowns. What are you thinking?
Yeah, up, over. I like the touchdowns as far as increasing the touchdowns just because of the catch numbers and being the number one for New England. I think I don't really can never underestimate being a number one receiver for New England. So I think he's definitely inside a top 25 receiver going forward. And that kind of goes in hand in hand with Tom Brady having a better year. Julian Edelman can have a better year as his partner. I Sometimes I got a serious lightning strike.
Is that thunder? Yeah, holy crap. Yeah, if you're on the East Coast, we got quite a thunderstorm rolling in, and Steve's house just blew up, so.
Yeah, no. But I'm still on here, so that's commitment.
That's commitment right there. Yeah, I'm gonna go over as well. Same reason. I think the touchdowns will go up. He'll probably stay kind of same area with yards, probably just over 1,000. But I think his touchdowns definitely go up. Next up, you have Eric Decker, a new receiver to the AFC East. 197 fantasy points last year, 1,200, almost 1,300 receiving yards, and 11 touchdowns. I think this is an easy one.
That is. He's going to go under there. He was a product of the system, as they say. So he's going to have to prove to me that he can put up the same numbers with Geno Smith that he did with Peyton Manning before I believe in that. So.
Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised to see him get the yards. I don't know if I see him getting the touchdowns. I don't know if he'll hit double-digit touchdowns, and that right there is, to me, worth going under.
Yeah, I just think the systems as well.
Yeah.
Denver certainly throws it more than the Jets will.
That's for sure. Next, you have Mike Wallace, 130 fantasy points last year, 930 yards and 5 touchdowns. This is a tricky one. I'll be interested to see what you say on this one.
Yeah, I have him in my bear or in my bull column, but only because I wanted to say the Bull Wallace because I wanted to show that I watched the Fire and I like it. I'm not necessarily high on him, but I think he's a 1,000-yard receiver with another year in Miami. I think that he can be a 1,000-yard receiver, which puts him at least a couple points over. So this is very close to a wash to me, / push. But I would go just a bit over because he's got another year with Tannehill and another year in the system. So he's working hard in the off season. So hopefully it translates into some more production.
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same thought lines as you, but you know what? For some reason, I got a feeling under. I don't know why. He might have more points, but maybe he just doesn't get the touchdowns. He just hasn't shown me anything to tell me that he should go over that number.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Prove it. And he hasn't done too much of that, but we'll see. That'll be a good one.
Yeah, exactly.
Monitor over the years.
I guess. Well, I guess we'll finish up with the guys who aren't rookies as the Thunder rolls on, and then we'll go to the guys who are rookies because obviously they're not going to show up on this list.
Right.
Sorry, I lied. They are showing up on this list. This is going by projected ranks. That's why. Next up, Sammy Watkins. Danny Allen. No, Sammy Watkins is first. Wait, no, you can't go over under with Sammy Watkins. My fault. Over.
He didn't play last year.
Over 0 points.
Yeah, my answer is over.
Danny Amendola. We don't say that we're perfect on this show. That's for damn sure. Danny Amendola, 78 fantasy points last year, 633 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, this is another tricky one because you would think over unless he doesn't play, like always.
Yeah, exactly. Unless he gets hurt again. Yeah. Give me under because I want to go out on a limb on one of these things at least. And I'm just not sure. I'm just not convinced. It's kind of the sense of Eric Decker having to prove to me that he can translate in New York. I would think that Amendola just has to prove to me that he can go through a year being healthy.
Right.
The problem is you make me look like a real jackass because he's a really good player when he's healthy.
Yeah.
But he's just not healthy. So I'm going to go under and just say that it doesn't pan out as far as the injuries are concerned.
I'm going to take the over because I'm gonna say he's not healthy all year, but I'm going to say he only misses like 3 or 4 games and ends up getting over. I think maybe not the yards, but I think he gets some scores. I think he approaches 1,000. Probably doesn't get over the hump, but maybe like 5 or 6 scores puts him over.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he only had 2 last year, so the bar's kind of low, not unlike the quarterback section. But
yeah, that is true.
Yeah, so you got plenty of breathing room there.
Next up, Aaron Dobson, another New England receiver. It's kind of getting hard to pass the ball around that much. 76 fantasy points with 519 yards and 4 touchdowns.
I'm not overly impressed with Dobson. I'm going to go under again on a New England receiver. I like Kenbrell Tompkins actually better than I like Dobson. But I think Kenbrell Tompkins might even be coming up in this segment. But I just like him better than Dobson. And then Gronk comes back, and Amendola and Edelman. There's just not enough enough ball to spread around. There's enough passing plays. So it's kind of, I feel like you're kind of on the fence. Either you like Dobson or you like Tompkins, but you can't like them both. So.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I'm gonna say under as well. I think he kind of ends up being the odd man out.
Yeah.
Next up, Brian Hartline for Miami. 127 points last year, 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, he was the surprise guy last year. I mean, it was a product of a few really good games.
Yeah.
But I mean, he put together a string of decent games. I'm gonna say under for Hartline. I don't think he breaks 1,000 again and probably stays around the same. Not by much under, but a little bit under.
Yeah, I'm gonna go under as well. Just like you said, he was a surprise guy, and surprise guys don't always get consistent the next year. And I wouldn't have made Jarvis Landry a bull if I didn't believe in him. So I'm into Jarvis Landry at the moment, at least. Now that we've had all the experience of OTAs, and we can say for sure, but not really for sure, that Jarvis Landry is going to pan out. So, but I'm still higher on Jarvis Landry than Hartline. So
yeah, Jarvis Landry not projected that high for at least for Yahoo's purposes. So you never know. Next up, you have Robert Woods, one of your sleeper spotlights. 80 points last year, 587 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I'm going to go ahead and assume you're going to go over.
That's a good assumption, and has not made an ass out of you and me just yet. So we'll, I am going to go over just pretty much by the things that I said before, that they're working together, and him and E.J. Manuel are working together. They got another year under their belts in the system, and they came in the same year and developed some chemistry. So it's just by a development standpoint, I think he can go over that.
I'm going to take the over as well. Like we said, second-year guy, I think he only gets better. Moving along, Mike Williams, Buffalo, 33 points last year. I don't know if we even really need to go over-under with him, but 216 yards with 2 touchdowns. I got to think over, I would hope, just in the sheer fact that he only had 200 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's 2 games worth. So, I mean, you could hope that he would play more. Was he hurt or anything? Those numbers just don't impress me. I mean, you'd have to go over as far as the over-under is concerned, but I'm certainly not putting him on any radars for as far as drafting goes. He might even be a free agent pickup.
Yeah, and this is Tampa Bay Mike Williams. He only played 6 games last year, so.
Yeah, so there you go. But even 216 yards in 6 games isn't terrible.
Yeah, it's not very good.
Yeah.
Again, my math isn't great, but my computer has a calculator, and it tells me that's only 33 yards a game.
Yeah, I knew it was less than 50, but my math pretty much stopped at that point.
I guess we'll stop there. I mean, we could go Brandon LaFell, Brandon Gibson, but I think we're just going to stop there and move on to the running backs. And again, I'll actually go in order of projection because that seems to move it along a little quicker.
Works for me.
Yeah, first up, again, not many running backs in the top tier in this division, but C.J. Spiller, 125 points last year, 933 yards, only 2 rushing touchdowns, and 185 reception yards. Now, like you said, they are talking about moving him into the kick return game, but most places don't get points for return yards. Some places get return touchdowns, but those will be few and far between, so I don't think that's going to affect him at all.
Yeah, I think it actually hurts him. And is a reason why I would go under, even though it's only 125 points for a running back. I would still go under just because, unless you're getting points for return yards, because he obviously is a dynamic kick returner, but, how many points could he possibly earn from returning unless you get yards? Maybe he'll get 18 points at the most, three touchdowns returning, I think would be a fantastic year. So, and there's always that threat of, the kickoff return is the most exciting play in the NFL as far as I'm concerned, but it's definitely the most dangerous play.
Yeah,
they're trying to get rid of it. So
I'm actually going to say over. I think he'll.
Okay.
This is his. If he's going to do it, this has to be the year to do it because he's. I say aging delicately because he's my age. He's 27, but in running back years, that's like 40. So
yeah, exactly.
He's got to get it going or he's not going to, he's never quite panned out yet between injuries and just not putting it out there. But I think he can go over that easily.
I hear you.
But like you said, it could very easily go the other way. So next up, Going down the list here, we have Stephen Ridley, 118 fantasy points, 773 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 62 receiving yards. 4 Bill Belichick hated fumbles.
Yes, he did a fantastic job of pissing me off last year with all those fumbles.
Bet he did.
Yeah, he's a really good player, but he's just, God, you can't predict anything that Bill Belichick's going to do, which makes it hard to project the over-under for him. But staying optimistic, and because I actually like the way he plays, I'm going to go over and say that it's a new year, and Bill Belichick will give him another chance. And when he's in, he's really productive. He's a really good running back.
Yeah.
He just has to stay out of the doghouse with those fumbles.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take the under. Just because with Vereen, I have a feeling, and with Belichick, I mean, they just use running backs. Whatever he feels like using, he uses. There's no rhyme or reason sometimes. Sometimes Ridley will have 18 touches, the next game he'll have 3 because he had a fumble, I guess. I don't,
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to take the under. I don't know. He might be on his way out, but we will see. Next you have Chris Johnson, CJ2K. 200 fantasy points last year, so not a bad showing. 1,077 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. Pretty decent receiving, 345 yards with 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, didn't he have like a 90-yard receiving touchdown last year on the swing pass?
He did have a pretty long one at one point.
Yeah. I'm going way under. I can't stand Chris Johnson as far as fantasy goes.
Did you have him on your team last year, or one of your teams?
No, but it only takes you to have Chris Johnson for 1 year in your entire fantasy career to not like Chris Johnson, the way he plays and the way he produces.
And I had thought about going over, and I have never had him, so that's why that thought even crossed my mind. But I'm going to agree. I'm going to go under with him. As we said, or already said, in OTAs they're thinking of limiting him, and he's got Chris Ivory there and a couple other guys. So yeah, we'll go under again. He's another aging, again, used delicately, an aging running back. He's, 30? Or 29?
Yeah, he's somewhere near
I think he's 29.
And the other reason why I mentioned him in that Bull-Bear segment, that the Jets are going to limit his carries for some running backs that would keep them fresh, but Chris Johnson's yards per carry is barely 3, I would think, for most of his career. He's just 1 yard here, 2 yards there, 2 yards there, and then he breaks one for 85 yards, which, if he's not in the rhythm of the game, that it's definitely a lot harder for him to break that 85-yard run because he would have to do it on less carries. So
yeah.
I'm not excited about limiting Chris Johnson's carries at all.
That is a good point. Next up, I don't know that I even have to read the stats. No Sean Moreno, 240 fantasy points, 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, 548 receiving, and 548 yards receiving, 3 receiving touchdowns. I think safe to say we're both under on that.
Oh yeah, it might be fun for No Sean Moreno to hear you read off his stats, but that's about the only person. His glory days are behind.
Yeah. Next up, Fred Jackson for the Bills, 188 fantasy points. 890 yards, 9 rushing touchdowns, 387 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. Because
9 is big.
Yeah, because I said Spiller was over, I'm going to have to say Jackson is under that number.
Yeah, I went under on Spiller, and I'm still going to go under on Jackson. So I guess you can count on me hoping that E.J. Manuel and
E.J. gets all the rushing yards.
Yeah, Robert Woods and company, they throw the ball a lot more. Cause,
yeah.
I don't know, I'm just not excited about Fred Jackson and that 9 number on the touchdown column. That really buoys his fantasy numbers, and I don't think he's going to get there again. So
very easy.
He might get more yards, but...
Yeah, very easy not to run 9 fantasy touchdowns. I guess we'll move through some of these last ones a little quickly, being that it's been an hour. Chris Ivory with the Jets. 105 fantasy points, 833 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 10 receiving yards. I said he's a sleeper, so I got to take the over on that. I got to think, with CJ2K maybe not getting as many reps, Chris Ivory takes those reps and maybe he does something with them. But, it could go either way. He might not get that many reps, but I'll go over.
Yeah, I'm a bit higher than most people on Chris Ivory as it is because he helped me win a championship last year. He was good for the Jets in the fantasy playoff season, so I'm going to go way over on 105 just because I think he can be the number one, and the Jets like to run it. So just by sheer numbers, I'm okay with saying he's over, and I'm comfortable with it.
Awesome. Last one maybe, Lamar Miller. I think we probably both know what we're going to say here, but 98 points, 709 yards, only 2 rushing touchdowns, and 170 receiving yards.
Yeah, I like him to be over 98 by about halfway through the season. So
Yeah.
I'll go over.
Yeah, I'm also going to take the over. We have Vereen. I got to think he's over just because he had some injury issues last year.
Yeah, injuries are always, that kind of throws a wrench in this over-under column. But
yeah, he only had
more than
89 points last year, so I got to think he goes over that.
Yeah, he's a good two-way back as far as pass catching and rushing goes. So
yeah, and by the way,
yards everywhere.
These are not PPR numbers. These are pretty standard. PPR, I would think he goes way over.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
And then I guess the last one we'll do, there's really no need to do kickers and defense. Tight ends. So you got Gronkowski, and this is an interesting one. He was still, or no, I guess he wasn't. He's projected to be the 4th best, which is kind of interesting that he's only 4. I would think he's almost an immediate 2 or 3. 86, only 86 points last year, 592 in the receiving column with 4 touchdowns. I got to think over. Unless he has more major health issues, I got to think he goes over that number.
Yeah, and I know you just don't see Gronkowski, even though he's been hurt the last couple of years, being a guy that's injury prone just because he's such a large human that doesn't seem to feel pain. So I would go way over on Gronkowski as well. Like you said, he's a top tight end and somebody that you would have really no reason to avoid other than the injuries, but I don't have any concerns about that. Seems to be pretty healthy.
Yeah. Charles Clay, 120 points. He actually had a rushing touchdown last year. 759 receiving yards and 6 receiving touchdowns.
Yeah, I like Charles Clay. I made him a bull in my... Bull is the good one, right? It's going to take me a while to get to learn what's good.
Bull is good.
Yeah, I had him as a bull, so... I mean, 120, that's not bad for a tight end as far as 800 yards and 6 touchdowns. So
no.
It could be close to that production, but I like the over just because I like Charles Clay.
Yeah, he only really came on a few games into the season, too, so that's not even really a full year of being exclusively the guy. So, yeah, I'm gonna say over as well. Yeah. Next up, you have Cumberland, right? Cumberland for the Jets.
Yeah, he's a Jets guy, yeah.
Probably going to say under. He had 63 points last year, 398 yards for 4 touchdowns. I'm actually going to say under. I don't think they're really going to look to him a lot in the past.
Yeah, he doesn't excite me at all.
And they drafted a guy too, didn't they?
Jay Samara, the guy out of Texas Tech. He's exciting at least, and he's just a better offensive player than Cumberland is, and that's all that matters for fantasy. So
yeah,
I would go under on Cumberland as well. And we haven't talked about Jay Samara yet, but he's an exciting type of guy. It could be a late Jeff Cameron type that you get very late in a draft, but he could blossom. Maybe not as much as Jeff Cameron did last year, or Jordan Cameron. What am I thinking?
Jeff Cameron. Last one, Scott Chandler for the Buffalo Bills. 75 points last year, 655 yards and 2 touchdowns. He played in all 16 games, by the way.
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit of what we were talking about with the Patriots situation, not as much, but they have a lot of receivers there already. And their running backs, they use their running backs as receivers as well. I'm going to go under with the addition of Sammy Watkins. He might take some catches and things away from Scott Chandler. And he's never been too impressive. He's had flashes, but he doesn't excite me too much. I'm going to go ahead and go under and just not really be that intrigued to draft him at all.
Yeah, that was actually his highest in receiving yards that he's ever had, but lowest in touchdowns, or second lowest if you go back to his rookie year. He had 0. But I'm actually going to say over. I think he stays kind of consistent with the yards, but maybe finds himself in the end zone a little more. It's hard to get 2 touchdowns all year. I don't know how he did it,
That's
actually.
true.
I'd like to ask him. How did you manage only 2 touchdowns? Yeah, so that does it. That wraps it up for tonight's show. Next time we will move down to the AFC. What comes after East? Does it really matter?
Depends on what you're talking about.
I guess we should have probably started with North, huh?
Yeah, north is more north, but maybe we can go to them.
Maybe we should just go clockwise. Let's go AFC South next week.
Yeah, I'm not much of a geography guy anyway, so...
Yeah, we'll just go clockwise. We'll go east and then south. So next week we'll do the AFC South. Same thing, we'll do another bull or bear, then we'll give you some sleepers in the AFC South. We'll do over-under in the AFC South and a couple more extra things that we'll throw in there for you. Don't forget, send us questions, because that's the one thing we didn't get to do tonight because nobody sent us anything, because it's only our second show. So send us...
friend.
Yeah, send us questions. Email them to primetime@nextlevelradioonline.com or tweet us at NXTLevelRadio with the hashtag PTFF for Primetime Fantasy Football. But yeah, definitely send us your questions. We will answer any and all, probably all if we get the chance to. They kind of take precedence for us. So send us your questions. What's that?
Yeah, I would agree with you just because, I mean, we want to have listeners engaged and stuff like that, so we could put it in front of a segment even.
Yeah, I love answering questions, man. I mean, and that's, I think, where both of us actually strive. Maybe not strive, but we kind of do better doing that. I mean, we're okay at making up our own stuff here and telling you what to do, but I like when people ask me a question, I can give them advice because it's a, pick this guy, pick that guy, and... or who's going to have a better year, this guy, or who would you draft first, blah, 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 or, anything. Ask us anything. Ask us what our favorite color is.
Yeah, sure.
But there's also a segment that I have at the helm called Yay or Nay, which is basically you just ask us a yes or no question and we tell you yay or nay. So you can do that as well. So ask us a general question or ask us a yes/no question and we'll answer it, man. So or woman, whoever. And also, if you want to do the Fantasy Football League for our great show here, it's free. The draft is online, so you don't have to leave your home. And if you win, you get to pick what number draft pick you have next year. So why wouldn't you want to do that? Email us your info, your name, and obviously your email address will show up, so you probably don't have to type it unless you have a more preferable email. Send us your info to primetime@nextlevelradioonline.com, and I'll send you the invite, and you'll be in. I mean, we have, I think, 4 right now, 3 or 4. There's room for, we want to get at least 10. We have probably about, I have almost 2 months, so I mean, you have some time, but I have a feeling once people start finding out about it, it's going to fill up quick. So get in while you can.
Absolutely.
And just a reminder, listen to myself and Ben Beck every Sunday on the Showcast at 6 p.m. Eastern. And listen tomorrow for All Request Radio Rock starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Steve, what do you got going on that you need to promote?
Well, I'm a CEO of a site that helps you find jobs in sports if you have a sports degree called Sports Networker. So go ahead over to sportsnetworker.com if you want to check that out. We've got a blog and ebooks and all sorts of stuff. For as far as that's the company I work for, and then for more sports fix, or at least what I think in the sports world, go ahead and check out my blog at stevenrichards.net, and you can check out what I've been writing and see what my opinion is on the sports. I'm publishing about once or twice a week, so there's some new content in there as long as you head back weekly. And I'd be excited to hear about what you think, not only about this podcast but about the blog as well.
I don't know. Do we really want to know what they think about the podcast?
Not yet.
If you like it, tell us. Yeah, if you like it, tell us what you think. If you don't like it, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, exactly.
And follow Steve on Twitter. What is it again? At S Richards.
SRichards31.
SRichards31, and I am at Adam Next Level. I'm pretty sure. If I'm not, you'll find me. Go to at NXT Level Radio, and I'm sure I'm in there somewhere. And then just definitely make sure you check out our website, nextlevelradioonline.com. You can find guest spotlights that Ben and myself usually do between. I just talked to Jason Gann from Wilfred. Nice. Also on there, if you go to our events page, you can check out our coverage of Philly Comic-Con, which I know Steve was excited about.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Well, actually, I saw and got to take a quick picture with Michael Smith from ESPN while I was there, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
But yeah, also on that page we have an interview with Michael Rooker from The Walking Dead, all you Walking Dead fans. And if you ever watched Power Rangers when you were younger, we talked to the former Green Ranger, a.k.a. Tommy Oliver, a.k.a. his real name, Jason David Frank. So definitely go over and check that stuff out, and you can check out my blog, Ben's blog as well, and I shouldn't say old, that's like a negative word, previous shows. You'll be able to see our debut show, as well as all the previous showcasts that Ben and I have done. And then subscribe on iTunes. You can just search for Next Level Radio. We're going to have our own iTunes just because it's easier to get it under a different category. The other one's under like comedy. This one will be under sports where it belongs. So keep an eye out for that. We'll definitely let you know when it's up, though. I think that about wraps it up. Ben, do you have anything else?
Well,
I called you Ben.
Steve.
Sorry.
But
I'm just so used to
not
that.
really.
I'm used to it. I got to get used to a different co-host.
No, yeah, I'm excited to get going weekly. So just keep checking back and getting in with these new divisions weekly. Hopefully we can get some. I think what we've learned about the AFC East tonight is that there wasn't too much offense generated
Yeah.
from the division.
We'll get more interesting and other stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Robot Bill, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Robot Bill, good job tonight. We'll listen. You'll listen next week, Wednesday at 7, same time, same place, Next Level Radio. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. See you guys.
That sign, that dotted line, it was strange. Those things change for the better and for the worse. So I called my mama and she said, baby,
must be the love.